Well, welcome everyone. We're just getting started, letting people into the meeting. So we'll give it a couple minutes before we actually start the presentation. Okay, it looks like we got everyone in from the waiting room. So welcome. Today we're going to go over Clean Power Alliance's 2025 DAC GT request for offers. The DAC GT program, also known as the Disadvantaged Community Green Tariff, is a program that we've been running for about 4 years now, and we're looking for front of the meter projects to add to the capacity for this program. So if we can go to the next slide. So for the agenda, we'll do a quick intro, an overview of CPA and the RFO, a little bit about the program. Then I'll pass it over to my colleague, Alex Karyotakis, talk about RFO eligibility and timeline and the RFO evaluation process. So a little bit about myself. I'm Alex Ricklefs. I am a program manager for Community Solar at Clean Power Alliance. We also have Alex Karyotakis, who's a senior advisor on structured contracts, and John McNamara, who's our director of structured contracts. For housekeeping, audio should be disabled. Chat will be disabled, but you can submit questions through the Teams Q&A function, and questions will be answered either kind of during the presentation, or we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. Additional questions should be submitted to DAC programs RFO at cleanpoweralliance.org. All of those questions will be posted. We have 2 Q&As, which we'll talk about later, and they'll be posted for all to see once we answer them. And any questions submitted today will also be posted on our RFO webpage. Video will also be disabled, and the presentation is being recorded and will be available after the call. Okay, so let's go into CPA and RFO overview. So Clean Power Alliance, which we'll refer to as CPA, is the #1 green power provider in the United States. We were established in 2017, and it's a joint powers authority comprised of 38 member local agencies across Los Angeles and Ventura County. CPA is the 4th largest electricity provider in California and serves more than 3 million residents and businesses in the region. Southern California Edison is CPA's transmission and distribution provider. So for some background on this RFO, in June 2018, the CPUC approved a decision that created the Disadvantaged Green Tariff and Community Solar Green Tariff programs. CPA decided to implement these programs, and CPA was initially allotted 12.19 megawatts for its DAC GT program. In June 2024, there was a new decision that modified these green access programs, which included increasing the DAC GT program capacity for CPA and discontinuing further solicitations for the CSGT program. So currently, CPA's total allotment or allocation for the DAC GT program was increased from 12.19 megawatts to 18.285 megawatts. CPA is soliciting competitive proposals for new front-of-the-meter renewable energy projects located or no more within 5 miles from an eligible disadvantaged community census tract to fulfill its available DAC GT program capacity. We have a remaining capacity of 11.015 megawatts. PowerShare has been the program brand for the DAC GT tariff, so we'll refer to PowerShare kind of moving forward. So what is a disadvantaged community? So disadvantaged communities kind of refer to census tracts across California that suffer from a combination of economic, health, and environmental burdens. We have been using, or this program uses the Cal EPA DAC website and the Cal EnviroScreen results. So we'll get into the specifics of what constitutes a disadvantaged community for this program on the next slide. So for eligible project areas, projects need to be within or no more than within 5 miles of an eligible disadvantaged community per the program. So for an eligible DAC for the program, there are 3 criteria that are utilized. One is a census tract that has a score at or above the 75th percentile of Cal EnviroScreen 3 and or 4. The reason it's both 3 and 4 is that was chosen in a decision, decision from June, actually no, it was an earlier decision from 2023 that incorporated the new Cal EnviroScreen 4.0 criteria, but we also are keeping the 3.0 criteria. So if a census tract is at or above the 75th percentile and in Cal EnviroScreen 3.0, it will qualify as a DAC for this program. Second are our census tracts that score in the highest 5 percentile of Cal EnviroScreen's pollution burden, but do not have an overall score because of unreliable socioeconomic or health data. So there are some census tracts that don't have an overall Cal EnviroScreen score. For those census tracts, we are utilizing the pollution burden score. So any census tract that doesn't have an overall score but has a pollution burden score in the highest 5% is considered a DAC. And then finally, any census tract that is located in California Indian Country as described by 18 United States Code Section 1151. And we have a map that allows you to look at all these areas, including the 5 mile radius. And that is on our RFO webpage. It's CPA's Clean Energy RFO Evaluation Tool. Highly recommend you looking into it. You can search the address of your project, and it'll tell you, or it'll show you where it is on the map in relation to the eligible disadvantaged communities. And you can, from there, determine whether or not, your project is in an eligible area. And we have the image on the right that shows CPA service territory in green, and then the DACs in red, and then the blue is the 5 mile radius from those DACs. I'll also note that one more thing: projects do not have to be located just in CPA territory. It's any disadvantaged community or any eligible DAC as defined on this slide within CPA or Southern California Edison territory. So while we're showing the image of CPA service territory, the eligible project sites can be in Edison territory as well. And the map, the Clean Energy RFO Evaluation Tool will show that. All right, we can move to the next slide. So about the PowerShare program. So the PowerShare program, so customers in PowerShare receive renewable energy from an RPS eligible project located in a DAC within CPA or Southern California Edison territory. Customer enrollment is available now. Subscribing customers will receive 100% renewable energy at a 20% discount on their total electric bill. This discount can also be combined with the CARE and FARE discount that customers may have. Customer enrollment is available for the DAC GT program for PowerShare, and it's fully subscribed at the moment. But we take a look at available capacity every month and enroll customers in to fill that capacity. CPA verifies customer eligibility. This is not a program where the project developer would need to take care of subscription or customer management. That is all done through CPA. And if a customer is not enrolled in the CARE or FARE program, which is something we use to verify eligibility for the program, customers will be encouraged to enroll in SCE's Carifera program. And yeah, eligible customers may enroll in the program until the customer subscription reaches the 18.285 megawatts, which is our program cap. Next slide. Okay, well, I will pass it over to Alex Kariotakis to talk about the RFO eligibility and timelines, as well as the evaluation process.
Thank you, Alex. So let's go over the eligibility criteria for projects in this DAC GT RFO. As Alex mentioned, the project must be physically located in Southern California Edison territory, and it must be located no more than 5 miles from an eligible DAC. And all those definitions of what is an eligible DAC are also included in the RFO protocol. The project must be a new solar, wind, hydroelectric, or biomass biogas RPS eligible in front of the meter generating facility with a nameplate generating capacity between 500 kilowatts and 11 megawatts, and those numbers are in AC. Behind the meter projects, non-renewable technologies and other complementary technologies are not eligible. The latest eligible online date for these projects is December 31st, 2028. And the project must have completed either a phase 1 interconnection study or equivalent, or received a positive determination of fast track eligibility. I'll spend a little bit more time on this eligibility requirement. The reason that we include it is just to ensure that projects are on a reasonable track to be online by the required date of December 2028. If the project is interconnecting through the transmission level process, so through CAISO, it must have received that phase 1 interconnection study. If the project is connecting through SCE's WDAT and is not fast track eligible, it also must have received an equivalent phase 1 interconnection study. If the project is connecting through SC's WDAT and can demonstrate confirmation of fast track eligibility, then the project is eligible without having received a phase 1 study or equivalent. Since a lot of these projects are probably smaller sized, you might be eligible for fast track, so you can find more information on that on SCE's generator interconnection procedure webpage, which we've linked here. There are a couple factors that go into fast track eligibility, including the size of the generator, the type, and the voltage of the line. So please review those to see if you qualify. I'll also note that the fast track confirmation requirement is we will need that before executing a PPA, not necessarily at the time that you submit your bid. A determination of fast track eligibility is estimated by SCE to take between 15 and 45 business days from your application. So of course, get on that quickly, but that should help you understand what the timeline might be. And then the last bullet on here for eligibility requirements, the project must qualify as a DAC GT project pursuant to these CPUC decisions and resolutions. Okay, moving on. Going into more of the compliant submission specifications. So you all will provide in your proposals a price that needs to be a fixed dollar per megawatt hour value with no escalation. It's going to be offered at the project P node. The PPA price that you provide in the offer form should assume ITC or PTC at the identified benchmark level. For example, the benchmark level for ITC will be 30%. And then proposers are required to identify price reduction amounts in the case that the project qualifies for any tax credit adders above those benchmark levels. And there's more information on the RFO in the RFO protocol and the offer form template on this. Number of offers, proposers may submit a maximum of 1 offer per unique facility or location. This project should be the largest size and most competitive offer that meets all compliance requirements. If you have any alternative configurations or pricing schemes, please submit these in the narrative. And note, if a single proposer wishes to submit multiple unique facilities at different locations, each of these needs to be submitted as an entirely separate submission package with copies of each document. So you need to submit separate offer forms or separate narratives if you have projects located in different areas. Term, the conforming offer should have a term of 20 years. You can also provide alternate offers in the narrative of a minimum of 15 years if desired. Scheduling coordinator, these projects will participate in the CAISO market, and buyer will be the scheduling coordinator. Buyer is CPA. Finishing up on these submission specs. Ownership, all projects will be owned by the proposer, with CPA contracting the output of the resource for the duration of the contract term. The expected commercial operation date is on or prior to December 31st, 2028. Deliverability, so both energy-only projects and projects with FCDS are eligible. That means your project can or cannot be able to provide resource adequacy. Both are eligible, but note that energy-only projects will not receive any value in the quantitative evaluation for providing RA benefits. Seller security requirements are $105 per kilowatt of contract capacity. And guaranteed energy production, you can find more information on this in the pro forma agreement. It is 160% of the proposed estimated annual energy production. Okay, taking a look at the RFO schedule. We're at the webinar now. The RFO opened back on May 21st. 1 week from today, June 11th, is the first deadline to submit Q&A questions to the RFO email address. We will post answers to those questions on our RFO website 1 week after that date. We're going to have a second round of Q&A to make sure you guys get all your questions answered and have a couple opportunities. So there's going to be another deadline to submit questions on July 2nd. And on July 11th, we will post the last Q&A response to our website. RFO proposals are due on August 1st. We will notify proposers whether they are shortlisted on August 29th. And then we expect negotiations will take place between September and November 2025. The last opportunity for taking any successfully negotiated PPAs from this RFO to CPA's board of directors is December 4th. It's possible that they could be taken to an earlier board meeting date, but this is the latest possible date. And that is because we have an internal deadline to submit all executed PPAs to the CPUC for approval, which is a requirement under the DAC GT program, by December 23rd, so just before the holidays. Registration. You all probably registered because you're on the webinar now, so thank you. But here's the link to the form. If you haven't registered, please do so. You'll get all the RFO communications that way. Communication, all documents are posted to the RFO webpage, which is on CPA's website. Email alerts or notifications are distributed through the RFO email address. And CPA will not accept phone calls regarding this RFO. So if you have any need to contact us, please do it through the Q&A process, which is kind of set up for that purpose. Note, if it is discovered that a proposer contacts and receives information from CPA personnel, board director, or alternates outside of this Q&A process, we may disqualify your proposal. So take a note of the communication guidelines. Q&A process, we kind of went over this. You have 2 opportunities for Q&A. First submission is coming up in a week from today. Any questions that you ask during today's webinar, which it sounds like some of them are coming through, we will either answer live if if we can, or we will respond to them in writing and include them in these Q&A posts on the website. Okay, the submission package. So proposals should be submitted via email to the RFO email address. And please use the subject line so we can easily identify them. And here are the attachments that you are required to include. First is the offer form template. The data that you enter in here is the basis for most of CPA's evaluation of your project, so please fill it out carefully and accurately. The project narrative is kind of where you can tell us more of the story behind your project. The RFO protocol also has details on specific information that you should include in the project narrative to kind of give you some guidelines. And the narrative is also the place for you to put any alternative configurations or pricing schemes if desired. You'll provide a redlined PPA, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a subsequent slide. A project geospatial footprint file. This is used in the environmental stewardship qualitative evaluation that CPA does. So it is important. It doesn't need to be a full engineering diagram or a full site plan. It just needs to be the outline of the footprint of your project site. Please also be sure that you follow the file format guidelines for this, which are detailed in the RFO protocol. If you submit the wrong file format, we won't be able to do the analysis, and we will reach out to you to correct that. And then last two, you submit an executed NDA and CPA's vendor campaign contribution disclosure form. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the RFO evaluation process. Okay, first off is a quantitative evaluation. All projects will be assessed for market performance against the relevant project P node, which you provide in the offer form. Projects will be valued for their energy market revenues and resource adequacy, if applicable. And data in the offer form template is used to model proposals. We also do a qualitative evaluation. And here are some of the criteria, here are the criteria. Individual projects receive a rank for each of these. So we look at development risk, environmental stewardship, workforce development, project location, and other preferences. All the data that we collect for these is in the offer form template, and for environmental stewardship also in your geospatial footprint file. CPA will also be collecting data on projects that may not be used directly for project ranking, but will assist in screening projects for shortlist eligibility. And CPA reserves the right to remove shortlist eligibility for any project with an identified material risk. Supplier diversity. The offer form template also includes some questions regarding the CPUC's supplier diversity program, which is governed by General Order 156. This slide highlights some of the requirements to be GO 156 certified. And we encourage you guys to apply for certification with the supplier clearinghouse if you qualify. Contracting. Offers will be evaluated holistically, and CPA's evaluation will include the proposed red lines to the pro forma agreement that you will submit as part of your submission package. So any proposed changes to CPA's pro forma agreement via the red line PPA need to be included with your submission. Please allow yourself adequate time to thoroughly review the pro forma agreement, which is provided on the website. As we went over on the schedule slide, shortlisted projects will be on a relatively quick negotiation timeline. So in order to ensure we get PPA submitted to the CPUC for approval on time, it's important that you review the PPA. I'll note that CPA does not intend to provide collateral or performance security in connection with any PPAs that it may execute through this RFO. And also note changes to CPA's standard contract terms submitted after the response deadline may result in disqualification of the offer and forfeiture of the shortlist deposit. Supply chain code of conduct, I won't spend too much time on this, but the pro forma agreement contains a supply chain code of conduct. It's Exhibit Q. Please review it. If you are shortlisted, you will be expected to speak to how you will comply with the code of conduct. Okay, moving on to wrap up and Q&A.
Yeah, I can take it from here, but thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so at a high level, please submit any questions you have outside of this webinar to DAC programs, RFO at cleanpoweralliance.org. First Q&A will be questions are due on June 11th. For the second one, questions are due on July 2nd. All Q&As will be posted on the RFO website. August 1st is the deadline to submit RFO proposals, and a webinar recording will be posted on the RFO website. So thank you for participating. And I think now we'll go into some of the questions that we received through the Teams Q&A.
Yeah, so Alex, I've been checking these out while you guys have been presenting, so I can go through some of these questions that we've received. So one is, of the evaluation criteria, are there different weights to each of the areas? For example, does pricing weigh over community impacts? The answer is no. We don't put more weight on pricing over the qualitative criteria. We look at them both equally. Next question is, in the event that the ITC is reduced through the current administration, can we post a pricing scenario with a higher price than the original bid price? Unfortunately, no. And I'll go into the problem with that. This program's subject to a confidential price cap. If you go over the price cap, we cannot seek recovery for the above market energy costs. So we can't put a mechanism in the contract that's potentially going to increase the price. So unfortunately, it's not something we're going to be able to do to accommodate either tariffs or ITC risk. We're going to encourage you guys to bake in the risks when you submit your fixed price to us with your offer. And I'll note that we are planning on doing shortlisting in August, and we're planning on having executed contracts wrapped up at the latest by December. The next question is, should developers price in a 20% discount on the PPA bid, or do we just price the most competitive PPA and a CPA applies a discount? I think this is getting at go ahead.
Yeah, so the 20% discount, the bill discount that's given to the participating customers, that is actually from another source of funding for the DAC program. So that will not affect the PPA bid. You do not have to worry about the 20% bill discount affecting your bid. You would submit, just the most competitive PPA price, and CPA will handle the bill discount.
Okay, another question just came in. Are there any non-confidential contracts CPA has executed that can be used to understand the pricing caps for bids? Unfortunately, no. The price cap's confidential. And is there any another question is there any location preference for projects within CPA territory rather than SC? Alex, can you confirm if
no, there's not. We for the CSGT program there was, because the projects needed to serve customers that lived within 5 miles from one another. But for this program, there is no locational preference for being in CPA or Edison territory.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for all of CPA's RFOs, we have project location as a qualitative criteria. And projects will score high on project location if they're in our territory or in Ventura or LA counties. But it is not a requirement to be located in CPA territory to be eligible for this RFO.
Yeah, apologies, I said that incorrectly. Yes, there's no requirement.
Another one just came through. Are hybrid solar PV plus BESS projects eligible? They are not for this RFO.
And then I see one that is there a preference to specify bidirectional inverters to allow for the projects to charge from the grid? I don't believe so. I'll let you speak on that, John or Alex, but yeah, these are all front of the meter projects that are, I think, export only.
And storage is not eligible, so I don't think this would apply.
Yeah. Okay, well, if anyone else has any other questions, now would be the time to submit.
One thing I'll also note, so Alex pointed out that fast track eligibility, it's not a requirement at the time you submit your bid. It's a requirement to execute the contract though. So I would encourage you though, when you submit your bid, if you've already obtained fast track eligibility at the time of bid submittal, to point that out. And if you haven't, you could also point that out in the narrative. You wouldn't be ineligible. It's just it's frankly a little more de-risked if you've already obtained it, but it's something that we'd like to know. I think we'll give it like one more minute. If there's no other questions, we'll wrap it up. But we've, encouraging, it looks like there's a good amount of participation in the webinar today. And if you have further questions, we've created 2 rounds of Q&A for this RFO to hopefully get you guys very expeditiously respond to any further questions you might have. So don't hesitate to submit questions through the Q&A. By sending an email.
I think we got one more. Is there a maximum amount of bids a developer is allowed to submit?
No, there's not.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate you joining. Like John mentioned, if there are additional questions, please submit them to to the email that's listed on the RFO webpage, and we will answer them at those two selected times. All right. I think from here we can end the meeting.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.